is that we need to stay positive. We need to have disagreements on the issues, not on whether you can trust. I trust Senator Clinton, but I don't agree with her on a majority of issues.
Senator Dodd, you gave an interview to our local NBC station here today alluding to problems with Senator Clinton's national electability. What is the point you want to make on that score?
Well, first of all, I think electability is a very critical issue. Look, at the end of this process here, we need to have a Democrat in the White House come January 20th, 2009. That is essential, in my view, to get this country back on its feet again, to restore our moral authority in the world. It is a critical question. Whether it's fair or not fair, the fact of the matter is that my colleague from New York, Senator Clinton, they're 50% of the American public. They say they're not going to vote for her. I'm not saying anything that people don't know already. I don't necessarily like it, but those are the facts. We as a party certainly have to take that into consideration. But let me add, since the matter's been brought up here as well here, this situational ethics situation does bother me in a sense, but Bill Richardson has alluded to. My friend John Edwards here certainly taking money from the trial bar, special interest group, here to be condemning one candidate for taking money from one group as opposed to another. I happen to believe we ought to have public financing for our campaigns. I've supported that for 25 years. I managed the McCain-Feingold legislation on the floor of the United States Senate several years ago. I won't take a backseat to anybody. I'm trying to reform our political process. But let's remember what's at stake here. We need to elect a Democrat that's electable, and a Democrat that can bring the country together. For 26 years, I have in every major landmark piece of legislation had a Republican as my co-sponsor, because no one party is going to straighten all of this out. When I started the Children's Caucus in 1981, I did it with Arlen Specter of this state. When I wrote the Family and Medical Leave Bill, I did it with Kit Bond and Dan Coates. When I wrote the first child care legislation since World War II, I did it with Orrin Hatch, not because I agreed with them on any other issue, but because I knew in order to move our country forward, we had to have leadership in this country that understood the value of reaching out and finding common ground with people. So electability and the ability to govern and to do so immediately are important. But don't discount the importance of electability. It's a very important hurdle for us.
Senator Edwards, want to take 30 seconds and respond on situational ethics?
I do. First of all, let me be absolutely clear about this. I think I said it a few minutes ago. Nobody on this stage is pure, and that absolutely includes me. And I am not perfect, nor do I claim to be. It is true that I, like Senator Obama, have taken no money from Washington lobbyists in this campaign and no money from special interest PAC. But I'm not interested in patting myself on the back or actually talking about anybody personally on this stage. And I completely disagree with what Bill said. This is not about the past. This is about the future. This is about whether we believe this system works. I mean, we are here in Philadelphia where the Founding Fathers decided that the power, the sovereign power in this government, should not reside with the rich and the powerful. It ought to reside with the people. And everybody in America can see what's happening now. We don't have universal health care because of drug companies, insurance companies, and their lobbyists. The reason we haven't tackled global warming is because of oil companies, power companies, and their lobbyists. And the question is, what are we going to do for our children? I mean, I'll say this to every voter who's watching this debate. Listen, we've all stood by and watched this happen. That includes me. I'm guilty as charged. But the question is, are you willing to look your children in the eye tonight and say, I'm going to turn this mess over to you? Because if you turn your back on the incompetence and the corruption that exists in Washington today, that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying, I'm going to let my children and my grandchildren take care of that. I'm not willing to do that.
Congressman Kucinich, you're smiling. Why?
Well, I'm glad to hear people take a stand for integrity. When people get money from New York hedge funds, and then they attack another person for getting money from Washington interest groups, you know what? They're both right, so I'm not going to get in the middle of that one. Now, I want to go beyond that. The American people have a right to know what's different here among all these candidates. We haven't really established that, I don't think. And I'm the only one up here who stands for a not-for-profit health care system, which means that the insurance industry has enormous influence in this race. Why shouldn't Democrats stand for universal, single-payer, not-for-profit with 46 million Americans uninsured and 50 million Americans underinsured? Tim, I want to tell you something. There's got to be people watching this at home saying, hey, you haven't talked about me losing my job because of NAFTA. Well, I'll cancel NAFTA and the WTO and have trade that's based on workers' rights, human rights, and environmental quality principles. Somebody's got to be saying, wait a minute, who's talking about whether I'm going to have health care? I've introduced the bill, H.R. 676. You have somebody worried about losing their home. We need to cancel Bush's tax cuts and flip them so we give the benefit to the 80%. Well, currently it's going to the top 1%, so people will have more money so they can save their homes. I mean, we have to talk about people's practical aspirations here. And if we don't do that tonight, this debate is a total flop.
Senator Biden, you said recently, while Mrs. Clinton was meeting socially with the Prime Minister of a country, I was sitting down and negotiating with them. I know my experience is considerably deeper and more relevant. Do you stand by that quote, and is your inference that she is less qualified than you to be president?
I'm not running against Hillary Clinton. I'm running to lead the free world. I'm running to lead this country. And the irony is Rudy Giuliani, probably the most underqualified man since George Bush to seek the presidency, is here talking about any of the people here. Rudy Giuliani. I mean, think about it. Rudy Giuliani, there's only three things he mentioned in a sentence, a noun and a verb and 9/11. I mean, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. And I mean it sincerely. He is genuinely not qualified to be president. Here's a man who brags about how he made the city safe. It was the Biden crime bill that became the Clinton crime bill that allowed him to do that. They wipe it out. He remains silent. The 9/11 Commission comes along and says the way to keep your city safe is to do the following things. He's been silent. He's been done nothing. And now he's talking about he's going to go in and he will demonstrate to Iran he's going to, in fact, lay down